This is part 2 of my previous video. I accidentally stopped the recording and I'm going to do a part 2. So, again, this is Starlight and we are talking about the download I received from Anubis and how that has to do with the alchemy and the process of Nigredo, the alchemical process. And here's an image of the putrefaction process, which is a death and rebirth process. And if you notice here, the person is standing on top of what appears to be a ring of fire solar eclipse. So I find it really interesting that today, we're entering in the year of the fire horse. So the energies are shifting. What does that mean? How do we decipher what's going on? These processes are happening inside of us, not only on the outside in the outer world. These processes are happening internally. And usually what happens is they happen internally first and then project outwards. So the masses are actually going through the Nigredo process. And here is another image of the Nigredo process, putrefaction. What I find really interesting in the tarot cards is, okay, so we're in the year of the horse, right? And here we have a horse, death riding on a horse. So it's like a harbinger, right, of change, not of doom, but of change. So here we see the death of, antiquated systems that are not here to bring us closer to the truth of who we are, the truth of why we're here. So in many ways, this was Pluto in Capricorn, lifting up false systems, propping them up. And now we're here in the age of Aquarius. Pluto entered Aquarius. Now it's all about we the people, lifting the people up. So everything serves a purpose, though, right? As things die, so to speak, they are intended to create life in the soil. Like, these are the lessons, right? In the soil of our minds, our collective conscious. So the death of these things served a purpose, as lessons. Like, this didn't work out. This did not serve everyone, but it served a lesson, right? So that's why it feeds the soil, so to speak. So this is kind of like where we're at as we're transitioning into a new phase. Everything has to die before it can be reborn. And here again, we have the horse. The horse is, in this card, it's the Sun tarot card. And we have the little child, the small child. It's like being reborn. So it's like a rebirth. So we went from death to a rebirth. And when the sun is eclipsed, it's basically kind of like a death and a rebirth. As I was saying, we're entering the year of the horse, right? The fire horse. On the same day that we're having a solar eclipse, ring of fire eclipse. So symbolically, eclipses are accelerants. They interrupt routine, expose fault lines, and initiate new chapters. This one is the first solar eclipse in Aquarius in nearly 8 years, opening a cycle astrologers say will unfold over the next 18 months. When an eclipse coincides with the Lunar New Year, its meaning deepens within Chinese cosmology. The pairing signals a formal closing and reopening, a passage from reflection into renewal. It is not merely the flip of a calendar page, but a spiritual checkpoint, a pause before momentum resumes. Although total visibility will be limited to Antarctica and parts of the southern polar region, symbolism does not depend on geography. In Chinese medicine and traditional astrology, eclipses carry death and rebirth energy. They are associated with endings that clear space for more aligned beginnings. Outdated identities, roles, and attachments are understood to dissolve under eclipse skies, making room for a more authentic direction to take shape. The timing amplifies that message. The reflective year of the snake gives way to the kinetic year of the fire horse. If the past cycle emphasized shedding and introspection, 2026 shifts into acceleration. The horse in Chinese astrology represents independence, charisma, visibility, and decisive action. Add the fire element and the tempo increases. This is double fire energy, bold, ambitious, and unwilling to idle. And then, of course, we have Saturn and Neptune conjoining in Aries at 0 degrees on February 20th. So that's really interesting too. It's like a reset button, astrologically speaking, has been. And here is a really cool alchemical image. We have the zodiac wheel displayed in the background and the 4 elements that are used in alchemy. So, of course, that means astrology is a big, big thing in the alchemical work. So the cosmic clock is ticking, so to speak, and it's like it's go time right now. So that's one of the reasons why I'm making this video, is to help others along with the process that I've been led into, and that's, what we're supposed to do, help each other out. And you can see here the stairs, the steps to the union, the alchemical marriage. And we have, again, like I said, the zodiac wheel. You can see the different signs. And then here is another image. We got the 7 classical planets, and they play a big role in the alchemical process. So it's good to know that, know what the energies you're working with, so you know what's happening. In alchemical imagery, particularly regarding the conjunctio, the sacred marriage, or the creation of the rebus, divine hermaphrodite, the man and woman represent the fundamental opposing principles that must be united to create the philosopher's stone. The man and woman indicate the following: the king and queen, sulfur and mercury. We have, the eclipses, the solar and the lunar eclipses. So those are major events that are taking place. So we need to focus on, when those are happening and what astrological signs they're happening in, to further understand the why. So the king and queen, the man represents sulfur, the masculine hot, dry, active principle associated with the sun gold. The woman represents Mercury, the feminine cool, moist, volatile principle associated with the moon. So the conjunctio oppositorum, they represent the fusion of opposites, spirit and matter, consciousness and the unconsciousness, or light and darkness. Their union signifies the reconciliation of these contradictions to create a higher unified state. The chemical wedding. The scene typically depicts these two lovers engaging in a chemical wedding within a vessel, a retort, which acts as a metaphor for the laboratory process of merging elements or the inner transformation of the soul. The rebus, androgyne, the ultimate goal is for the man and woman to merge into a single androgynous being, the rebus or dual matter representing the perfected balanced state of the magnum opus. The soul and spirit, in some interpretations, the man or a red king represents the soul anima, and the woman or a white queen represents the spirit spiritus, which must be brought into harmony to achieve enlightenment. In many images, they stand upon the sun and moon, respectively, and their union is a necessary step to produce the red dragon or the phoenix, which are symbols of the final perfected stone. Now, the man and woman is the wedding occurs inside of us. So we are both masculine and feminine, like the hemispheres of our brain, masculine and feminine. So it's not literally becoming a hermaphrodite. It happens internally, but it's not literal. It's figuratively speaking. Of course, in many ways, the union of the divine feminine and masculine in reality is also the next step in the work as well. So if you're lucky enough to find your other half in this world, just be thankful that was something on your path. You know, maybe it's in the astrology. I don't know. According to my astrology, I'm not likely to meet my other half, and if I do, it's going to be later in life. So I'm okay with that, but you know, it does get lonely. These are signs that you are entering the Nigredo process of alchemy. And I think this is probably going to be happening more so on the collective scale. Again, because we're in the age of Aquarius, you know, where we go one, we go all, dark to light. It was basically Q is the one who said, yeah, you're going to be going through alchemy, the rites of alchemy, and it's going to be a collective process. So these are things we get to look forward to as we progress, we evolve. So, number 1, something important to you or life in general seems to be falling apart. Check. You're in a season of decay. There are many painful inner and outer deaths or endings. Check. I'm just kidding. I'll stop with that. So 3, you're no longer interested in what once motivated you and you feel flat, restless, or demotivated. 4, you feel lost and aimless with no clear sense of direction. 5, you've lost your sense of self and you don't know who you are anymore. Identity crisis. 6, you lack a sense of purpose and meaning in life. 7, you're having painful confrontations with your shadow self and your flaws, errors, and shortcomings are on full display. 8, you may struggle with nightmares and disrupted sleep. 9, you may struggle with a mental health crisis, anxiety, depression, OCD, etc. 10, you may struggle with addictive tendencies as a way to numb the pain. 11, you may experience strange, frightening, altered states, visions, dissociation, etc. 12, you've lost trust in yourself and are filled with self-doubt. 13, you feel emotionally fragile and vulnerable a lot of the time. 14, the world, people, and situations easily overwhelm or exhaust you. 15, you crave solitude and more time alone than you once did. 16, you feel disconnected, hollow, and distant from your soul. Dark night of the soul. 17, you feel an inner sense of being dissolved, purged, or broken down. And again, I am brought to Anubis here. And Anubis, the message Anubis had for me was ensuring that the deceased, and by deceased, I don't mean literally, right? We're going through the Nigredo process, the darkening, which is a transformation. It's death and rebirth on a mass scale. So Anubis has this message, not only for me, but for everybody else, that the deceased, the ones going through the death rebirth, are safe from harm, and that their souls could, and your soul will make a successful transition to the afterlife. So Anubis is going to be here for us. Anubis is going to be the one transitioning us and taking care of us as we go through this death rebirth process. So hopefully this will bring peace of mind to anybody out there who is experiencing this process. Now you know why it's happening, and you get to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that it's not the end of the world. It's the end of a world, but not the world. It's the end of an old world that no longer, it's like a shoe. When you're growing as a child, the shoe don't fit anymore. So we got to get new shoes. We're in the process of getting new shoes. What size are we? We don't know. We got to go and try on the shoes as we're being rebirthed. And, this fire is burning away the old. And in the ashes, the phoenix will rise. And the ashes will create the new earth that we will be standing on with those new shoes that will fit us. So I will leave you with this image for today's solar eclipse, the Ring of Fire eclipse. That's going to be happening in Aquarius. So, Godspeed, my friends. You are not alone. We are in this together. And Anubis is going to be holding our hand, okay? So lean into Anubis. No, it's not evil for any of you people who are stuck in the religious brainwash system. This is, God wanted us to do alchemy. This has to do with God in us. The birth of the Christ within. We have to go through these processes, though. Raising from the tomb. Jesus was in the tomb for 3 days. That's the winter time when the sun essentially dies for 3 days and then rises again. Everything's cyclical. Just like with astrology, we're entering a new cycle. But since this isn't mainstream, I believe it will become mainstream because it's essentially part of us. So how can you not, be familiar with something that is of detriment? So they've kind of kept us from knowing thyself by claiming these things were evil, and that if you looked into it, then you were inviting evil into your life, which is not even the case at all. Just like any lover, if you really love somebody, you're going to want to know that person inside and out. And I'm talking about you, like loving yourself. So when you get to know who you really are and why you're here and how the processes work and how astrology works with all of that, and, the sun and the moon, they're big components of how we work internally. We'll be able to unify with ourselves once again, and that's the whole purpose. So, again, Godspeed. Thank you for watching.